Hello. Welcome. So, what do you get when you take a superpowered super being? He has a kid with a mean girl, and they have a lot of pumpkins. Everybody's confused now because, once again, I'm just going to call characters by
All right.
their Anyways, welcome to Horror Dork. I'm Golden.
Hi, I'm Mr. Sir,
I'm Anthony.
and this week we are talking Cobweb from 2023. One of the one of the more well received horror films of 2023, I'd say.
Yeah, I noticed, like in the horror groups and everything, a lot of people really liked it. The ones that didn't, of course, were the ones that were like, "Oh, horror movies in my days in the 1980s were the best ones ever. They'll never make good ones again." Even though this did have practical effects.
It had practical effects.
Awesome.
It has a cool premise as well. Yeah, this movie, like, I think it suffered from one, kind of a weird generic name, and two, the marketing of it kind of made it seem like a ghost movie, and I think people are kind of sick of ghost movies. So that's why I didn't initially watch it, but Anthony hipped me to it, and I watched it on based off of his recommendation. I really liked it.
Yeah.
Getting a
Yeah,
recommendation from Anthony is always like a 50-50 thing. Like,
Why?
Is it like legitimate Anthony telling
Or
you
am
to
I
watch
getting
it?
Mockingbird?
Is he like,
All right.
"Oh, you guys should watch this movie. It's the best thing ever." And you watch it, and it's like
It's
3
just
hours.
this
of
movie
just
is
the
so
wall.
fucking awesome, man. It's
Keep
so
watching.
scary, man. It's so good.
And I was not.
You were telling me how
I wasn't
awesome it
sober.
was. No, and then the next day you're like, I told you to watch that movie, man. That movie wasn't that great. I was like, yeah, I know. I watched it. I was like, what the hell's wrong with you?
We had to do an episode on it because Mr. Sir was pretty much like, "Well, I had to watch it, so now let's make Golden watch this fucking movie." And God, it was so bad. And I read another thing that said that another thing that this movie suffered from was it did get released the same weekend as Barbenheimer.
Oh, Barbenheimer.
And even though a July release for this movie when it's clearly a Halloween feel, and
That
vibe
is
to it,
crazy. They should have held off for like a month.
mean,
Just a month.
especially if they're not even going to advertise it anyways. Like because they really didn't put much advertising behind it.
No, I didn't really hear much about it. And like the trailer I saw, like it didn't really. It looked like a ghost movie.
And let's be honest, like there's so many movies out there and I think we've talked about it before, where they'll like re-release a movie because there's a star in it that's big, even though they're barely in it or something. Like
Right.
That. And they did the opposite with this. It's like you have
Homelander who's
in this movie, and he's like really hot right now with the boys, and they're like, let's just put this one on the back burner.
He's
like,
playing like a sort. Anthony Starr's playing like sort of like a thematically similar character to Homelander, like a guy that see on the outside seems like he should be like the perfect guy, but like there's just something underneath the surface that is just
smile.
He has a smile, an untrustworthy smile. Like he's really, I think he's really great in this movie as like they both are really well cast as like people that just have that look about them where you're just like, there's just something about you that I just quite can't trust.
Yeah, his smile is just off-putting, but like not in a bad way. Like I've seen actors and stuff that have like this smile that just makes you not even
Creepy.
creepy. But his smile just like
about it. Yeah.
It's like I'm gonna keep watching.
Well, it's perfect for like the kind of characters that he typically plays.
But he'll never be able to play a good guy or a nice guy in anything.
No, yeah, he'll.
I think he's a good actor. I think
he's a good
great
actor.
I think he can pull it off.
I just would never. No, he won't, because I'll never fucking trust him.
If he makes you forget that you're watching an actor and you're observing a character who's doing his job.
The kid that played Joffrey in Game of Thrones also can never play a good guy, because you won't trust him.
I mean,
Draco Malfoy, never play a good guy. You can't trust him.
Who's that?
Joffrey actor is like really kind of like that character is like such a fucking little bastard that it is like. I hate that. I hate his face. I hate everything about him. Not the actor, obviously, Joffrey, but like I think that some of that like kind of like transfers over into like the zeitgeist, and you just kind of associate the person with the characters they play. It happens all the time. But
I think when an actor does a good job, it's very easy to forget that you're watching that actor.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. Like, but sometimes like people are just fundamentally like miscast. Like that's not it's not like a problem with the actor. It's just like they're not right for the role. I'm not saying that could happen or has happened with Anthony Starr. I'm just saying that it is possible.
I'm
for
saying
that.
Anthony Starr shows up and says he wants to babysit my child. It's gonna be no. He's creepy. Also, like,
I think that opens a whole door of other weirdness. Like why specifically coming
Anthony Starr shows up.
Your kid.
Wait, you don't have like A-list celebrities just show up at your house and offer to babysit? No. Okay, maybe it's just me. I don't know. I thought that was a normal
I'd be
thing.
okay with it.
Not with Anthony.
So Anthony, you've been a little quiet on your opinions on.
Well, I just wasn't trying to.
No, I understand. I
want
you guys to have a chance to speak.
I want you to not worry about me.
We always worry about you, buddy.
I don't know. So here we go. The first time I watched this film, I fucking hated it.
Really?
And immediately then told you to watch it.
No, that's not what happened.
He said he thought I would like it.
Yeah.
Which I did a lot. He was right.
So one of the things that I kind of picked up on the second watching, because Marianne wanted to watch something scary, so I thought this would be good for her. Because this really is, we were talking, the reason I say this is like good for newer horror fans is because we were talking before the show, and maybe it was during the beginning of the episode, but Golden, you're talking about in horror face groups, a lot of the old guard is like, this movie is...
Yeah.
Because this movie is a whole series of recycled tropes throughout the whole entire thing. And that's not a bad thing because they do it well.
Right.
But I feel like there's parts of it where they're obviously trying to convey a reaction, and it's almost eye-rolling until you look at the perspective of how this movie was shot. So when I rewatched it with Marianne, I'm like, okay, there's a lot of simplicity in this, but it makes sense because this whole perspective is from the child's point of view.
Right.
You know? So I appreciated it a lot more on the second viewing.
I just want to give just like a quick summary of the basic plot real quick. So Cobweb is about a little boy who starts hearing sounds in his room, and it keeps him up at night. And then he starts hearing voices, and his parents are insisting that it's rats, and he's just imagining things. And the parents are being extremely sketchy about this. And like through a series of events, things keep getting worse and worse and worse until it reaches a fever pitch at near the end of the movie. And now I don't want to spoil anything because this movie does have a couple twists and turns, especially in the last like 40 like a half hour of the movie left. So I'll stop there, but that's the basic gist of the movie. It follows, and it's from the kid's point of view. That's basically
the
idea.
One thing that I think that this movie does really well is the set piece. Because that house is perfect.
Yeah.
Because I feel like growing up, all of us have had a friend or knew someone that lived in a house like that, where it's not dirty, it's well kept and everything. It just has this weird dingy feel because it's just so old.
Right.
And that's what
that's sort of like how my
during
house
this
was.
movie was like, this has the feel of this just old house that, even though obviously the father does stuff to maintain it and everything, it's still just it's just an old house, and because of it, which also helps lean into the thing that the kid's just imagining things because it's an old house. So like, the parents are like, oh, it's an old house. There's noises. There's going to be noises, and I felt like they did a really good job at conveying that through the house. And they really do I think they bring you along on this ride because they start off very strong with the whole, it's just a kid. The kid's, at school. He's always hearing noises in the middle of the night. I mean, because he's in a fucking creepy room.
Right, yeah.
I'm not going to be able to sleep in that room and not hear
it's got a big
noises.
It's a pretty sparse looking room, and it's got a really high ceiling, so it's pretty creepy.
And that horrible wallpaper.
Right.
100% have someone living in your walls if you have wallpaper like that.
So, well, the it stops being just sounds, and then the voice is like talking to him and knows his name, and it has like this little girl voice,
Don't
and
tell
it
him.
starts manipulating him in ways like getting him to do stuff like he's getting bullied at school by Gary Busey's little kid, and the solution the solution the voice gives him is to just fucking push him downstairs, and he breaks his leg, and then he gets suspended from school. So now he's at home all the time with his parents and the voice. And that's all that stuff. All the lead up to that is really creepy, and they do, like, if you watch a lot of horror movies, you're gonna probably see the twist a mile away, like I did. However, I mean, it's been done in a bunch of movies. I mean, I could list off some examples, but it would also kind of spoil those movies as well. Like,
Yeah.
because I don't want to really like give up the ghost with this one. It is a fairly new movie. It's streaming on Hulu.
They definitely telegraphed a few things like way in advance.
Yeah, on my second viewing, it became a little more obvious what was going on. Like after I knew what happened,
Right.
and I was looking for this stuff.
I do like the fact that so because again it started off with leaning pretty heavy on the fact that it's just a kid being a kid and he doesn't he's just hearing things or whatever. But then when they decide to show that the parents, there's something off about the parents, they dive in hard.
Right.
Like
yeah.
on that, like the mother goes from just concerned mother to absolute nut job.
Manic. Yeah.
And like that's the scene where the teacher is like, "Oh, I just think
She
that that's not
pops
the
down.
best environment for your son with his issues," and the fact that the mother goes like, because it was clearly just the teacher saying, "I think he should be in a school,
Right, with other kids
homeschooled in
socializing.
this creepy fucking house," but the mother like freaks out with it being, "You're not going to take my child away, and it was a miracle child," and it's just like that, like. At no time did it sound like she was saying they were going to take the kid.
Right.
And that's just where she went. And she went so hard with that. And then you have Homelander trying to calm the situation down. And it's like, oh, well, maybe he's the sane person in this whole thing. Like,
well, then he picks up
he's
a
not.
hammer, and he's not going to be hammering anything. He just picks it up, and then because at that point in the movie, the son has been locked in the basement, which
well, he's
is
grounded.
Yeah, he's literally undergrounded.
The way to do is put him underground. That's
and the basement is a door that is locked behind the refrigerator. So
it's not a full size door either.
No.
Like that was
so right there, at this point you're already suspicious of the parents, but at that point you're like, okay, there's something going on. He's like chained down in the basement as punishment.
Where there's a grate that leads to a pit.
Right.
Yeah. And that's one of my, I guess, complaints about the movie is where they really want to drive home this narrative that is leading you in one direction.
Yeah, it's sleight of hand
so
a
they
little
can
bit.
build the revelation towards the end.
Right. Which, I mean, all that stuff, and again, I don't really want to get into it too much because it's spoilery. I mean, maybe we could have like a spoiler alert near the end and you could stop the pod and we could talk about it, but.
So, but my complaint is with the parents. Like, they're overdone on purpose. And I feel like it's distracting because you know what's going on. At least, like you said, like you could see the twist coming from a mile away.
Right.
Like the twist.
I wouldn't call it a twist, but
no,
they do try to mislead you into thinking some sort of atrocity took place. And I guess in a sense it did, but but they're alluding to murder and stuff.
What about like the the nightmare sequence? Even though I loved it, and I did.
Yeah,
I thought it was so well done. It gave
was
me really creepy vibes.
Well done.
But I also felt like it was only in there just to creep you out. Like, because like there was enough going. Like they didn't need to to say, oh, look at let's make the parents even creepier, because I feel like at that point, just the way the parents were acting was already just so creepy. Like, you don't have to bring in a nightmare sequence that's clearly nightmare,
Right.
because of the fact that all the things that the parents were doing, like, were not good parenting. You know,
No.
the parents were, and I like that too, is that they didn't feel, even when the twist happens and everything. A lot of movies, I feel like it's really easy to say, "Oh, look, the parents weren't bad after all," and I don't feel like they ever tried that with it.
No,
They're
they
like,
definitely
no, these are
didn't.
still horrible parents.
Yeah, I mean, they sort of get what they deserve,
Yes.
but
Like, I don't know, but just, yeah, for me, that nightmare sequence, while well done and amazing, and it really did creep me, like really creep me out, I feel like it was unnecessary.
it was put in there to fill a scare ratio. I
Yeah.
think, yeah. Like at that point, all that's really like they can't really go with the voice in the wall or whatever's in the wall going on much more. They've already kind of milked that for like about 45 minutes to an hour, and at this point it's one location. They don't really cut away. They cut to the teacher a couple times because the son calls her because she left her number on the quiz that she brought to him that from school. But I mean, other than that, it's basically at the house, one location.
I will say too that I had a chuckle because the obviously I'm all about other characters that people have played, because I keep calling him Homelander.
Right.
But like the scene where the boy just got suspended from school and he's at home, and Anti-Star and Homelander looks at him and goes, "We are not a family that resorts to violence." And I laughed. I mean, just because knowing his character in that, so I don't know, that made me laugh hysterically.
Did it give you a little giggle?
I got the chuckles.
So this movie does the one thing that I've complained about, and a few of us have complained about, is the emptiness that it brings. So Golden, what you're talking about with like the dream sequence and what we're talking about with like the parents and stuff, is it just does stuff within its devices for the sake of it being scary rather than it fitting necessarily the services of the movie.
Right. I feel you on that one. Like, I think the saving grace of this movie and why I like dug it so much and was more forgiving of some of the other things that happened in the movie is because the last half hour of the movie absolutely pulls no punches.
Oh, yeah.
It takes no prisoners. It's really crazy. Honestly, could we talk about the ending a little bit?
Yeah, we're getting into spoiler.
We'll get into spoiler
Oh,
territory
yeah.
now. So if you haven't watched the movie, check it out. I think we all of us recommend it. So now to get into the spoilers. So the little boy poisons his parents,
Which that's one of
based
the things they
on-
telegraphed way early.
Yeah, because he has rat poison, and I'm like, oh, that's Chekhov's rat poison.
Especially because he's like, oh, it smells like cinnamon.
And so they both die from that, and the last words the mother sound, you think she's chasing the son up the stairs, and she's not. She's trying to lock the door and get the kid, make sure that she doesn't let out what is the voice. And the voice is his sister, who is a creature. It is not it's a person in theory, but this thing has like a creepy pasta face. Like, it is a Cheshire cat. It's got fangs.
Yeah,
It's got
the
giant
mask
eyes.
is really well done.
Very big head.
And they hired a contortionist. As
Yeah,
an actress.
so
So just to give you an idea of kind of what this creature is it's moving like a
yeah,
Spider.
it's got a cool voice. She talks like this and crawls on the walls because she lives in a pit, like a cement pit, and she from living in there, she learned how to climb the walls, and she's got like razor sharp like claws.
She had to use the cart to
And
dig and scratch.
and
her
okay,
way.
and the
long hair
and the hair
is home to millions of spiders.
hence the name of the movie Cobweb. That's where it comes from. And then she shows up, just spiders are raining, and to add to the body count, the little boy that got his leg broken, He brings
That's
his
rad.
brother and like his brother's friends over to fuck up the little kid. And I don't know what the plan was. They break into the house and they just start smashing everything. And then they discover the bodies and then they discover the sister.
That might be the most realistic part of the movie. Because how many times you've been in a situation in your life where like your friend or relative got fucked up and you're like, let's just go mess them up. There's no plan. You're just going looking
true,
for them.
true. Yeah, they
The
just
fact that the Busey lad had put on a monkey mask when he was on crutches with that big busted leg, it's like
that
they'll
mask
never
was so
figure out
cool.
where I am. They'll never figure out who I am.
Yeah.
Because I got this
Hobbling on
mask. It's like,
crutches. I thought the same thing. I was like,
but again though, like these were like what 16-year-olds and
Yeah.
a 10-year-old.
And
So
they
the
get
planning was
fucking-
obviously not huge.
They get ripped apart, literally. The one, like, you don't really see the action, but you do see the aftermath. One kid gets yanked under, and then instantly, a geyser of blood just shoots out from under
always
wherever
love
they
that
were
effect.
pulled. Yes, that is one of my favorite. I love that too. I think it's always cool looking. They do that in Idle Hands too, when he pulls the
love
mom
Idle
under there and just instantly blood just
yeah,
pulls.
I'm not
crazy.
a fan of that.
You don't like that? I think it's. I
And he's
think
like,
it's
it's not
effective.
realistic. The human body does not have that much blood.
He
No,
ripped
it's
him
just- it's
and but then you see what happened to the guy. He's
Especially if
literally
you're gonna show
ripped,
other kills.
ripped in half. Cuts the little boy's head off and puts it inside of a jack-o'-lantern. It is nasty. This movie does get really nasty at the end, and I think that is what really like kind of like pushes it from an okay movie to something that I would really recommend to people.
It definitely gives you the payoff for.
Oh yeah,
Seeing around
absolutely.
the
It rewards your patience with it, like because you're like, okay, it is like sort of like a horror movie by numbers at that point. It is sort of like, all right, is this a creepy kid? Is it a ghost? Are the parents evil? And it's a little bit of both. It's not a ghost. It's a ghost in the sense that this was a person, and then she just stopped existing because. She's a hideous. You were born and the parents cheered. I was born and they screamed. So cool.
I absolutely I love this.
The
scene
ending was
where-
awesome as
where
well.
it turns to the ending, like so
Yeah,
it's that
yeah,
dinner
yeah.
scene, because it cranks up. I feel like it cranks up the atmosphere just that little bit more before all hell breaks loose.
It's very malignant in that
Because
way.
you're
Malignant has a
watching-
similar kind of twist.
Yeah, you're like watching them all eat, and the father being like, "Oh, what'd you do? This tastes different." And the second he says that, you're like, "Oh God, does it smell like cinnamon? Does it smell like cinnamon?" And like the whole time,
Now,
like, and it's so funny because it's
How
so
much-
realistic that when he says, "Oh, did you do something different?" and the wife looks at him and instantly goes, "No, it's good. I like it." Like it's such a realistic thing.
how much rat poison would you have to eat for it to kill a person, though? Because
Okay.
rat poison. How much? Okay,
Right.
so the amount of rat poison that would kill a rat, you'd have to imagine. You'd have to like, for size and everything.
also
You'd have
rat-
You
to
think
like.
somebody's hair can really grow that long or be born like with that kind of face?
Yes,
Do I?
you've never
think-
seen my sister.
Maybe. I don't know.
Like,
we wouldn't know because they got locked away in
is, like,
pits.
I mean,
incidental.
Technically, no rat poison. Like because I think I read it one time somewhere that like you really couldn't kill a person from rat poison. You just make them sick because
I mean,
rat
that's
poison, the way it kills rats is it dehydrates them. Like so, it's not
This
even
is-
instant.
This was like an instant, like vomiting up black blood.
But I love it because like the father
It
realizes
was cool
what-
looking. Like, don't get me wrong, and it didn't take me out of the movie. Obviously, at that point, I'm pretty invested in it. I
Like, nice little scrap.
I was just like, well, that isn't realistic, but in the reality of the movie, I'll take
I
it.
love how they do it because there's that realization on the father's face that it smells like cinnamon. So this is they've been poisoned.
And she
and-
just
and-
keeps eating. He's already eaten enough of it, but
Yeah.
he didn't. Like,
And he looks
only
at-
ate like half
I
of
like
it.
how he just looks at the son and he's like, "What did you do?" And then the son just looks at him and goes, "You hurt my sister." And that second he's just like, "Call 911." And the wife's like, "Why, boy? What's going on?" She's confused. He pukes everywhere. She grabs the phone and the little fucker cut the phone. and then it's just like, and then she just grabs the knife. So then you're like, oh my god, it's
Well,
still
yeah,
the mother's evil. And,
because
oh my god,
it turns out the sister had been just meticulously planning and manipulating
Maybe the whole
him.
time.
Yeah,
The father was actually trying to poison the daughter and hope she accidentally ate the rat poison. So it's like not rat poison, but some real poison he got from
oh, it could
somebody
be.
Smells
that
like
makes
cinnamon.
poison within the city, you know? And that's why he's like, oh shit.
Turn them into little pellets.
I gotta say too, like, because we've talked
Just
so many
desserts.
times, like when we talked about Satan's Little Helper and we talked about Babadook, the kid in this does a great job. Like,
Yeah.
I don't hate this kid and want him to die the entire movie. Where
Yeah, he
a
was a
lot of
good
times the
little kid.
horror movie kids in that age and that thing are so annoying and so like where you don't. But he's not like you actually can feel for this kid because it's just like, oh man, he's getting bullied at school. His parents just basically bully him.
Yeah, that was another thing that really kind of saved the movie as well. Is the kid actor was very, sold it very well. I thought he did a great job. He
And the Busey lad does a good job at being a little bully prick.
little bastard. Yeah.
100%.
I mean, the director's definitely talented for sure.
Yeah,
100%.
absolutely. I look forward to
And
their future
It's
projects.
definitely a gifted cast.
They
you
did an
well.
amazing job at the atmosphere in this movie, like which is I think is like one of the most important things is that atmosphere has to
Yeah, you
be
got
right, and that one is just like you felt
Yeah, this movie's definitely
Kinda dirty,
aesthetically
kinda
driven.
it captures a vibe for sure. It's a good
Everything-
Halloween movie. I watched it around Halloween.
You can tell the director's French because everything's so aesthetically focused.
the
Good observation, Anthony.
I do feel like I feel like the parents handled it
Saw bad guts
wrong
everywhere.
when they found out that the daughter was in the walls.
What?
Like, so the mother finds out the daughter was in the walls, and then it's like, like I feel like at that point is when they should have said, "All right, we're just gonna level with you," but instead they didn't. Like the dad tried to relate to the son with a metaphor.
Yeah,
He's like, "Come out to the pumpkin patch." After he looked at him creepy while he was just sitting there in his room and going, "I know you're awake. Come with me." And it's just like somehow the pumpkins all got black rot overnight. But he's like, so he's trying to do the metaphor. He's like, you just got to bury these and then hope the next patch is better. And it's like, just tell the kid that his sister's a monster and lives in the walls.
at this point,
Like, just tell him. He knows. Tell him so he doesn't get manipulated.
was this before or after he found the child's skull that was buried?
The boy had already found the child.
Okay, so yeah, he already knows like this is whatever, something terrible happened, and he assumes his sister's ghost or whatever is in the walls, and her corpse is their parents buried her when in reality,
No, she told him that it was the girl from Halloween,
right,
but they said that her parents murdered that girl
right, she did
because the sister, because she saw the sister and she knew the sister wanted help. So since that little girl was going to go get help,
I forgot.
and this is
My
clearly was a nicer time when kids could just trick or treat with like at that age without their parents. Like if I told my wife, "Hey, let's let our 9-year-old just go out and trick or treat the neighborhood on her own this year," my wife would be like, "You lost your mind? There's people out there, and people are horrible."
I mean, people are horrible,
I've
but
seen-
it's not.
I've seen
that
packs
bad.
of pretty young kids walking around Halloween this year, though,
Me too, unfortunately. They're annoying.
without adult supervision.
Yeah,
That's how I used to go
annoying.
trick or
I
Yeah,
mean,
me
I did too.
Yeah.
Me and and then it got to like the point where me and my friends were really lazy, so we figured out it was easier to do a smaller circuit and then just change costumes. So
Would it be the same costume showing up to the house?
what's that?
It'd be the same costume still showing up to
No,
the
I
house.
don't think they mean like switch costumes.
Oh.
No, yeah, I don't mean like
Okay.
trade with
Get
each other.
new
Just
costumes.
get
I
new
mean, just-
costumes on and go.
Right.
Right.
To the point where
It's like, oh, we're just like
That
have a
makes more
regular
sense.
costume on and then like a Grim Reaper like thing on over top
Yeah, I
of
got
it,
it.
and then
then,
go
then
and
we
then
get
pull.
really lazy and like I remember the one costume we did was we got my friend's brother who was like much larger than us. We got one of his t-shirts and we both put it on and we wanted Siamese twins. And we did a whole nother circuit. And it was great. It was great. It worked. We were lazy, but the funny thing is we ended up walking just as much
Yeah.
right.
and also having to change clothes. So in our minds though, we
Right.
broke the
You
system.
made out like bandits,
We
yeah.
broke the system in our minds. So
So we do. We got any final thoughts on Cobweb?
Well, how do you guys feel about this topping like tons of the best of 2023 horror films?
I mean, there's some contenders on there. Like, I mean, it's arguable. Like, as far as like a competently made, satisfying horror movie that does the
See,
job.
That's
this
why I feel
does
like it's
get-
undeserving because I feel like that's where it ends. It's just a competently made horror movie that is somewhat satisfying.
right.
see, I think it did such a. I think it's probably my favorite atmospheric horror movie of this year. Like in that term, like because it did, to me there were a couple jump scares, but for the most part, this paid off with the atmosphere with cranking up the.
I mean, that's true. You weren't beat over the head with, cat jumpers.
How many jump scares were there really in this movie?
Just a dream sequence,
Dream sequence,
and just like
when the
every
mother's
once in a
behind
while,
him.
yeah. There's
How
a
does the
couple
mother get
points.
behind him for that phone call? That it got me, and that ticking sound.
Yeah.
Also, I wish
What would be your?
I wish my
what would
house
be
had a
your
bunch of
pick?
little-
I don't know. That's
You
what
have
I'm
one?
trying to think of right now. I don't know.
Like I mean, I loved Evil Dead Rise.
Yeah, that's the one.
But
that
to me,
pops
that's a
in the
different-
top of my head.
To me, that's in
I
different.
mean, I know him.
Is
field
like
of
is
horror.
like one of the top ones.
Really?
Not my top one, but
Also, I can't remember when 2023 started and ended. So
I mean, I feel like I
January
I don't-
1st.
I
I don't
enjoyed
December
Evil Dead
31st.
Rise, but
Wow, that-
I feel like
I'm
Okay.
just looking up my
like, what's your
notes.
favorite?
my favorite of
Your favorite,
2023. Gosh dang it, dude.
When Evil Lurks was probably mine.
That's good.
And that's going to be one that we're going to be doing. Thanksgiving was also really good.
Yeah, that was good.
Coming
That's,
soon.
that one's coming.
Streaming.
That
we
was
are.
so fun.
That is on Netflix today.
Is it? Oh, nice. That's so by
It was
soon.
on Netflix yesterday. So, and that is
today, as in if you're watching this in the future, Sunday the 18th.
yeah.
Of-
I
And
mean,
we-
it's not like you're like saying in a couple days and you need to. I mean, today if they watch
It's
it later,
streaming. It's
still-
streaming currently. We are going to be reviewing that next week. That is going to be our new release movie that we are doing next week, Thanksgiving. Eli Ross
Noise.
slasher movie. Really,
From
really
the-
cool. I like that one.
from
Spoiler alert.
From the
Grindhouse.
Splatter
saw-
King himself.
I saw that movie in theaters on Thanksgiving with an entire theater full of people exactly like me. We were just hooting and hollering the whole fucking time. It was great. It was just like the perfect way to watch that movie.
I mean, considering it's based on the Grindhouse trailer, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's inspired by.
Inspired.
I guess.
Yeah. I mean, they
They wanted to make it for years.
in ways the trailer goes farther than the movie does.
Yeah.
Because like the trampoline scene is not nearly as visceral as that, and the killer does not fuck the turkey person either. That is more intense. Of all the ones that were of the fake trailers, that is the one that seemed most like a movie. Although my favorite one was Don't.
Yeah.
Don't had me fucking dying in the theater when I saw that.
I mean, let's be honest too. Like any movie that's a holiday horror movie is going to be amazing. Even ones that come out, this year.
That's
Based
not
on
true.
Easter Monday. Dingus Day. My movie.
It's
Dungus.
a wonderful knife.
Listen,
Ugh.
first of all, I'm trying to do some shameless self promotion. Don't Anthony it up. Dingus Day.
It's a wonderful.
It's
night.
on
a bad
Indiegogo.
movie.
Donate so I can afford for the person that I'm trying to get hired.
Yeah, he's reached his
By the-
goal, but we want to get some of those push goals.
We did reach the goal, and I now have 2 people that have the tattoo perk. So yeah.
Nice.
I did a last week Monday. We were $800 away from goal, so I put it out there and I said, because we want to hit goal today, until the end of the day, I'm making this offer. However much we have left to hit goal is how much I'll do the last remaining tattoo perk for. So right now it's $800, which was like $200 off, right? And then our 1 star the one guy that's in it was like, "Hey, my niece really wants to act with me, and she saw that there was a perk where she could act with me. Which one would it be?" And I'm like, "Oh, it'd be either of these." And he's like, "Okay," and he's like, "Oh, but my other niece wants to do it as well." And so the perks would have been $250 each. So I'm like, "Well, how about if we do like the two of them in it, and we make it 400, save you guys $100." So they did it. So now we're down to 400. Then someone bought did a $75 perk. So we're down to 325, and I'm like, oh man. And then somehow, so then the one guy messaged and said, yeah, I'll take the tattoo perk. And it somehow at that point got down to 240 or 250 we needed. And then my buddy did a 249 perk. So we had $1 left, and Mike's like, well, how much should we make the special perk for the tattoo? I'm like, 325. He said he wanted it at 325. We're not doing it for $1.
I think I read about this in the Longest Story Ever magazine.
It was
Yeah.
great. It was an awesome time.
And I just want to plug real
Indigo
quick.
go ding
I was on my friend's podcast last night. The Unknown Podcast is what it's called. Look that up. It was a video podcast. We talked about movies, and we did a playlist. So you get to listen to 3 songs that I picked out: Freddie Dredd, Little Dicky song, and some dubstep song that samples Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I'm done. Over with the plugs.
You know what I thought would be funny as just like a social media post or something is like a picture, and it's like
I'm laughing already.
it's like us reviewing Return of the Living Dead in 1988, and it's shot through like an old vintage filter or something, and it's like, you know, like your daughter or something,
2
like
babies and a
Andre,
9-year-old.
and then it's Golden, still looking exactly the same.
I got wigs. Put a wig on.
Yeah, my
Just like 2 12-year-olds and Golden sitting there.
just draw a
That would've been
mustache
Our
on my
first
son.
Horror Dork
That
episode.
would be absolutely hilarious.
All right, so I think that wraps up Cobweb. I think he all gets a recommendation from us.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
good enough for a recommend
Yep.
for sure.
Good.
Follow us on the socials. Like and subscribe on YouTube, Facebook, Blue Sky, all that stuff. Instagram. We go live every Sunday at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Next week we're talking Thanksgiving. Make sure you check that out. And as well, after this we will also be talking Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 3, and next week we are doing Part 4. The Next Generation. So with that, we'll wrap it up. I'm Mr. Sir.
I'm Golden.
I'm also golden.
And this is Horror Dork.